The boy reminded me only tangentially of Agatha, but it was enough to keep my door ajar. He was patient, astute, and timed his insistences with precision, qualities that reminded me of her. There was something of her brother as well, a pitifulness and introversion that extroverts like me and Agatha were confoundingly drawn to. He shopped for me and kept things tidy, and I gave him room and board. Neither one of us particularly good cooks, but he was an age and I a durability that we counted a rotating melange of pasta shapes as dietary variety. It was the first time I let myself speak indirectly of Agatha, of Netto, of Gree, of Balkis, of Leona, and the rest. The stories, however vague, seemed useful to him somehow, and being of use had a sedative effect in me. I slept better and communed with my old compatriots in my dreams, turbulent at times, but also beautiful. In the fabric of these dreams there was a stitching. The third time Agatha came back empty-handed after my insistence for some sherry, I became undone. This was the last tendril to my total subjugation. At the time, an inexplicable terror, one that made me at times mad enough to take my own life, at others close to infantilized tears. I had what you might call a tantrum. I seem to remember grabbing glassware and trinkets off of shelves and flinging them with force against the wall in a firework of shards. Agatha simply stared, unimpressed, perhaps relishing in my pathetic display. It was only when I grabbed at the small rabbit's skull, perceiving it somehow as a sentimentality by the way it was laid on her piano on a piece of velvet, that I felt her hackles rise. The words again entered my head. I will kill you. And those eyes, cat-like and primordial and tinged with a white-hot heat around the iris, penetrated me and gave me again the choice, the two paths through the woods. I very nearly crushed the little carapace beneath my fingers, but instead, I somehow averted my gaze from hers and placed it reverently back in its place, in total defeat, in total humiliation. A numbness overtook me, familiar only from days long before I became a vampire, a void within a void. That was when she surprised me for the second time. In the vampire community, there is a predilection much looked down upon, which you would not be surprised that I have participated in at times. Having cited the several by now permanent fang-like wounds on my neck, she would have been well informed of this fact. Some call it sugar-necking, others vorbing or gorging or gargoyling. More habitual users will simply ask if you'd like to pass the time or have a pass. We all knew of Travail and Tope, two vampires of ill repute who made their home in Liverpool and whose lair was eventually discovered after a feeding gone awry gave them away. Unable to recognize their own ineptitude in time, a rabble 40 strong converged upon their home as they were engaging in the ultimately weakening act, and with steaks and garlic and the whole cliched panoply, put an end to them. If they had not been habitual sugarneckers, they would most likely have had the power to find some escape, start fresh somewhere else. But that was the cautionary tale for us all. More so for the likes of me than Agatha. There was not a single ounce of me that wanted to impress my teeth upon her neck. The thought repulsed me at that moment. Her feeding on me was another story. My taste had nearly always been for men, cocksure and with a proper amount of swagger and threat. I had no taste, to be frank, for the vulnerable or the easily preyed upon. Agatha, ironically, being neither of those things. How had I passed the time? time. There were, of course, a collection of vampires scattered across the globe who were privately known to provide such an exchange. Vampires of both sex and neither, who were useful in times where one must lay low, avoid detection, while still keeping the nasty habit going. But I didn't want her neck. Not in that way. I just wanted some damn sherry. I raised the window and I began to climb out onto the slated rooftop below, when the twang of metal rung out by my head. The knitting needle, her favorite covert weapon, sharpened to a ridiculous degree, it twanged like a tuning fork, several inches deep in the window frame, barely splintering the wood. Almost, I heard her say, or she might have imparted telepathically. It was a comfort and a threat, it is what I needed to hear. She had every reason to pity me and to be disgusted by me, and yet she did not. It was shortly thereafter that she told me about our first mission. At night, sometimes I need some more mature company, and so I leave the boy at home and go to a few familiar establishments. Billiards Harry, some knew me as. A few hundred years of practice made me relatively worthy of the name. After the sound of drop pockets grows tiresome, I lounge my way discreetly to a back room, fill a styrofoam cup full of coffee, 2 powdered donuts on my handkerchief on my leg, and begin the process all over again. Once upon a time, these stories would fill me with revulsion or sardonic laughter, but Today I live only in admiration of those that have any willingness to confront the darkest and most difficult monster there is, ourselves. There, as I'm listening, or trying to at least, is one of the few places I can feel her presence. Somewhere in a corner behind me, knitting perhaps, or sharpening her needles, but all the while smiling at her unlikely success. "Hello," I say to the room. "My name is Harry, and well, you know the rest." Did I mention her neck this time around? I keep forgetting if I'm making a promise I can't keep. Surely there's something more interesting to talk about. No. Well, I don't disagree. I'll try again for next time.